Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay. Thank you for coming to MTN. This is the Minneapolis Television Network. We're the public access station for the city of Minneapolis. And we do tech training, media training, social media, kind of anything technology related. We make it accessible to people. So thank you for coming in. We're also going to be live streaming to YouTube for an archive. So then you'll have that to use as you wish. So again, thank you guys for coming, and we're going to turn it over to Qiana.
Hi, good evening. My name is Qiana Hicks, and I am a guest speaker to talk about my background in IT and share any information that may be relevant or interesting as far as technology goes. So technology is a very broad spectrum. There's a huge technology is just broad. It's a very large spectrum that ranges from technical devices all the way to middleware services that operate the devices, all the way to software programs, right? So it's huge, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. But I'll give you a little bit of background on myself and how I got involved in technology, and then I'll just give some tidbits on things one could do who has an interest in technology and just, is curious as to where to start, where's a good place to start. So my background in technology, I didn't foresee myself when I was younger in technology. It wasn't a subject area that I was familiar with. I was interested in education. Since a young girl, I wanted to become a teacher. I loved teaching. There were certain subjects that I loved in school, math, science, read English, reading, and so forth. So I wanted to work with children and just teach. Life happens. Certain circumstances, I became a young mother. So in high school, I became a young mother, and I didn't want that to derail me in my future and building a brighter future than the one that I had growing up. So I wanted different for myself, but I didn't know that I would have to want different and provide different so early on for a life, right? So my future goals and just my direction in life shifted when I became a mother at a very young age. So in high school, 10th grade, that's when I had my son. I was 15 years old. And one of the things that I realized as a mother is that my obligation to him, and the only thing legally that I could really do to provide a future for him, a better future, was to take advantage of resources as much as possible and just take certain opportunities serious. So with that, I took school serious because that was really the closest thing that was in my reach at such a young age. So in school, I knew that I had to finish all of my credits on time, and I knew that I had to give it my best effort. So that's what I did. And one of the opportunities in school that I really took advantage of that was the beginning of change in my life was a school fair, a career fair actually. And that's where, I'm sure you've heard or even attended one or experienced a career fair, but that's where a number of different professionals come in and talk to the students about different majors and careers that they could transition into post-high school. So I was intrigued by the IT professionals that came. We had a number of different career professionals that came, and their background and their majors and their careers were very interesting. They all were. But it was something about the IT professionals or guest speakers that really caught my attention. I was just fascinated about what technology could do, mainly because I didn't know a lot about it other than my cellular phone, right? And just the basic word processing applications and so forth. So that piqued my interest, and fortunately, I had a supportive faculty at my high school. So I went and spoke with our student counselor, and they were able to work with me and help me to learn more about the subject area that I had just recently became fond of, courtesy of them with the career fair. So they reached out to the IT professionals that were guest speakers at our high school, and they arranged for myself and some other students who expressed interest to have a tour to experience what a day in the life of an IT professional was like. So as a young adolescent mother in high school, this was one of those opportunities that I knew I had to seize and I had to take it serious. So I was excited to go on the informational interview, and I got to talk one-on-one with the IT professionals and just get a better understanding of what they did and how technology, how they use technology and how technology supported their business. And it just became more interesting. It was an interesting visit. It was well worth it, but it left me perplexed. It was just so complex. It was just a bunch of talk and just jargon and terminology I wasn't used to using or hearing on a regular basis. So, then I questioned, is this something really that it's achievable? Looking at the statistics and research, there's not a lot of, young minorities, African American women, or just, in general, stepping into this industry, into this field. So, is it that tough? And so a lot of doubt and discouragement started to weigh in. But I knew that it was my obligation as a mother to not only set an example for my son and my siblings, but also I owed it to myself to just find out more about it, to see if it's something that, I really would become more interested in, and if it was something that could challenge me, but I could successfully learn and achieve. So as I prepared to transition into college, prior to me graduating, as part of researching which school I wanted to attend or that was best for me and fit my schedule and my circumstances, one of the things I wanted to do was talk to a counselor just to get more information about the various programs that they offered. So I set up another informational interview with a college counselor at the school I was interested in attending, and learned more about their IT programs. And more information that was more overwhelming. When I did meet with the counselor, I learned that it's a broad area, and you'd have to have a sense of what part of technology or what field of technology or within IT you wanted to major in. And I had no clue. Again, I was starting with no background or information or history in technology, so it was a lot of research on my part to try to understand what interests me most and to utilize the information that I learned recently from the IT professionals. So I started with my basics and then my general credits, and then eventually I understood where I wanted to be in technology. I wanted to kind of have an understanding, because it's so wide, I wanted to have as much of a wide spectrum understanding and learning within technology as possible. So I started on the actual technical side, where you build computers, assemble accounts, build networks and topologies and so forth. So I got an associate's degree in computer networking and administration. And I attended a junior college initially. And it was by far one of the best educations that I've ever had. I learned not only about the systems, CPUs, and every component of hardware that builds a computer or technology in general, binary numbers and things used to compute programs and so forth, but my instructors were real live programmers. So, not only did we have the textbook information, but we had real live experienced programmers and engineers teaching the courses and teaching the application and teaching about the hardware. So I became more well-versed in it, and that just really ignited my interest in knowing more. So I knew that I had the education, and I strategically had to figure out how I was going to use this education. So my part of that strategic plan was to get a job within a company. I realized that an associate's degree would get me so far, probably just in the door. So that's exactly what I was expecting for this company. But it had to be a company that offered or had an IT department that I could use my education and just gain more experience. So I found that. I found a job within a company where I started in the very bottom, I guess you could say. And I started in customer service. But I wasn't just the ordinary customer service rep, right? I used that opportunity for what it was. I was able to learn about this company, the business aspect of it, their systems, and their products. So that was my part of my strategic plan with finding, I guess, utilizing the education that I had and finding a job where I can apply it until I furthered my education. So I got the job, started in the very beginning in customer service, learned about their systems, and as I was progressing in school, and by now I was in my undergrad studies for computer science, and as I was progressing with my education, as I got closer to completing my undergrad degree, I started looking internally for opportunities within IT. Found that it wasn't easy, it didn't happen overnight, but over time, a lot of research and just going on informational interviews and kind of networking with people within the company, I found an opportunity within their technology space, and I kind of started at the bottom within technology. I was in help desk support. So there I was able to apply the things that I learned with my computer networking degree. So we did a lot of network support. We did a lot of individual user support to team members. We did a lot of assembling and re-imaging computers and so forth, and implementing new systems for the company that I worked for. As I gained some more experience there, I was there probably in that space in help desk capacity for about 2 years. And I was able to continue my education in computer science. And as I neared the completion of that degree, completing that program, I started looking on the information side of things. So I felt comfortable enough where I had experience on the hardware side. Now I want to get into more of the informational side with the data and the infrastructure that's supported and so forth. So found another opportunity within the same company to start within the data warehousing space. Started at the bottom within data warehousing as a programmer analyst. And that's where I did a lot of operational support. And that's where I did a lot of mainframe batch programming, monitoring of jobs, a lot of ETL and Unix programming at the time. And just continued to build my experience. I sought out mentors from some of the experienced developers within the company, and I just continued to seek opportunities that would expand my knowledge and just challenge me. So that is how I started in IT. I've been in IT for 20 years now, and some would think that by that time you become an expert, but you just don't. Technology evolves, and it changes so fast, and you just have to do your best to keep up with it. There's just so much within technology to know that one can't know it all. So it's really a matter of understanding what part of technology do you need to know, what benefits you most. For me, there's a priority. It's what technology supports my main career, my primary job. What technology do we use? How do we use it? How does it relate to the business aspect of it? And then secondly would be, what am I interested in a technological space from a hobby standpoint? So that's kind of my priority, and that's how I set the priority as to how I learned more about technology and looked for opportunities within technology. It was based on my job and the areas that I needed to become more well-versed and educated in. And then secondly, things outside of work that interest me in technology. So within one of the questions, Valerie, or some of the questions and points Valerie recommended that I cover is a person that's in technology. What are some tips or information you can offer them that they can apply, whether it's within their team or on a project or just to progress? And so I gave you kind of like an entry level, background on how I started and entered into the field of technology. But once from an educational standpoint, you've accomplished what you needed to kind of even get an opportunity within IT, then it's a matter of kind of learning the systems that you work on a day-to-day basis. So one of the things that I was challenged with was understanding what our technology department was comprised of. And it was many different systems, many different applications, different technology, different languages. And so I had to, for a person that, who is working in a space where they're working within a team, within IT, or whether they're supporting a project. One of the things I would offer or recommend is that they understand their role, that they the role that they would contribute in their team, and then understand the technology that they use to do their day-to-day operations or to support their business partners. So whether you're in the medical field, what technology is used for medical devices, for medical information, and once you understand that, learn more about it. Then when I was starting, there was a lot of information online. There were a lot of manuals then that came with the technology that the manufacturers provided. So there were real live simulations within these manuals that I would apply in a development-like environment in my own little sandbox to get more of the conceptual understanding of it, right? Before I could form an actual product, executable product at least. So I did that a lot, and that's what I would recommend anyone in that space to do, is just learn about the technology and products that you support and how it plays a part in your day-to-day operations. Second, there were a lot of computer-based training. We called them CBT courses when I was starting out. So I took full advantage of those too, just to get the basics and the fundamentals. And once I felt like I had enough between the CBT courses and the training manuals that were offered by the manufacturers, I was ready to put that to the test. So that's where I put myself out there to take on opportunities within my team that I could apply what I learned. And then I also partnered with some of the engineers and some of the architects within my organization, not necessarily within my team, but within my organization that could help me go beyond. I wasn't afraid to test, and that's what development is for, so I took advantage of that. I took advantage of open source environment, so I didn't have to start building something from scratch and just tweak something that was in a shareable repository, and I learned from that. And then you just put yourself in an opportunity where you may fail, but you learn from it. I did that for a number of years, became good at it, and I just continued to gradually increase my role and my responsibilities. That led me to different areas within IT and within the company, and I just kept reinventing myself because technology did exactly that. So when there's a later version of the technology that we currently had, I took advantage of learning what the differences between the prior version and the newer version and what the new features and functions offered and how to use them in my regular operations or business operations. I also, in addition to, just keeping up with the changes, I also was part of various RFPs and POCs, so requests for, requests for proposals for different services. I was a part of those. I was a part of proof of concepts of different technology, right? You know, as your business grows, you want to keep up with technology that can support your business, that is scalable, that provides robust and optimal performance. So we were always, well, in technology and IT, you're always, one should expect to have to contribute to the research and development of technology and products and tools that can benefit their organization or their business best. So I was a part of that. I took advantage of that, and I got to learn about different applications that did similar functions and chose the best ones, put them to the test, worked with the vendors and manufacturers to do proof of concepts and safe environments and so forth. So yeah, so that is, you know, as someone starting out in IT and progressing, getting as much education and background in it, taking as many opportunities as you can to learn about your current technology and future technology that performs similar business functions. Those are very important and for someone that is looking to do well in their team capacity as well as from a personal development standpoint. Today, with technology, you know, we used to have, I was in mostly software development. That's been the last, I would say, 16 years of my career has been in informational side of technology. And we, our development life cycle was in a staggered approach considered waterfall. So it wasn't as flexible and it wasn't as quick to go to market or put your product out into production environment, right? There was a phase, a cycle. And eventually, as you know, competitive the industry is within technology and just competitors in general in any business aspect, you want to stay ahead of the technological curve in your competitors as well. So eventually, waterfall started to shy out, and they started to prevent or come up with a more agile environment, and that's what IT or in technology in general, adapted to. So you can deliver, develop in a more continuous, integrated fashion, more automated fashion, and more incremental. So a lot of the work that we do in IT now, we do much faster, much leaner, and we deliver value faster. So that's part of Agile is a huge evolution from waterfall, and it's a mindset, and it's a lot of methods and principles that had to shift from such a long, drawn-out cycle to delivering an actual product in a very short time. So that's kind of the evolution of IT from my standpoint and experience and my background. I guess I want to open the floor up to see if there's any questions from anyone. Or comments. Yes?
When you said that there were many languages, when you said there were many languages in your department, are you speaking of diversity or are you speaking of computer languages?
That's a good question, and sorry to clarify, that's computer languages, yes. So there are many computer languages that a lot of our applications were developed or comprised from. We had traditional applications, you know, we had GCL programs, we had COBOL, we used C# and C++. There was a lot of older programming languages, Unix scripting, a lot of older ETL languages that we used, many different ones, but usually there's some form of commonality within programming languages. So some that you've learned from, and I think that looking hindsight, from an educational standpoint, we trained and learned in some of the basic foundation of computer programming, C++, C#, and DOS, and so forth. And a lot of those concepts were adapted with newer technology and application languages. So it's not impossible, you know, for someone to be well versed in multiple software languages, because there's kind of that foundational commonality that helps. So, good question.
You mentioned that everything now is going towards agile processes, getting everything done faster and leaner. What do you think? Do you think that getting a certification as a Scrum Master would be kind of beneficial in terms of getting into the technology field, even though it's not necessarily technology-based?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and it's a loaded question. I think getting Scrum, Agile Coach certified, right, whether it's Scrum, Kanban, or hybrid, is definitely a very great direction to go in. You don't necessarily have to be technical, right? A lot of the principles apply to common, mostly any industry. What a Scrum Master would do is teach, a company or a team or organization certain discipline and methods and principles that will allow them to work more, that would allow them to, that would achieve the goals of Agile, right, which is delivering incremental value, right, delivering solutions faster, being more flexible and agile in the way we do business and so forth. So a Scrum Master teaches the principles that can be used in technology, that can be used in business, that can be used in the medical industry. It's just so wide, it could be so widely used, and I think that is one of the huge directions that a lot of project managers and a lot of DMs, what is DM again? Delivery managers, they're transitioning over into that because it's so widely used. And, it does make a difference. It does make a difference as far as staying competitive. It does make a difference as far as the productiveness and the effectiveness that some of those methods and principles come with. Yeah, it's been proven to be effective. It's been an effective method. It's one that transitioning over from waterfall or prior methodologies that were used early on in technology, Scrum Master kind of helps build that gap. They kind of help educate teams and organizations and individuals how to properly use the methodology. So it's a promising field, actually.
Thank you for talking about other aspects of technology, like people can be in tech but doing like more management or project management, and not everything is coding. So I thank you for pointing that out, because I think people kind of, especially people who've never worked in technology, they get a little afraid when they think about all of the things they're going to have to learn, but every business uses technology and every business has a need for those kind of management positions too. So thank you for pointing that out. One question on the more technical side, if you, with your experience, if you had to suggest a language for someone to kind of delve into that would help them the most in any kind of corporate setting, what would you suggest to them?
So, I started out programming with Hello World. That was my first program that I created in DOS. But I would say standard query language, SQL, is a form that's used in various distributed environments, even Excel, even Microsoft Access. So I think that's a standard language that won't change. And the thing about SQL, it's more analytical as well. It's used a lot widely for analytical purposes. But with SQL, with SQL, and there's variations of query languages depending on the technology or the system. But one of the things is that usually some of the terminology and functions within that query language are exactly what they mean, So it's really understanding the concepts and the logic and how to apply logic, but query language is more adaptable. You understand what an aggregate function is because you know what aggregation is. You understand what a select all statement could do because, they're using nomenclature that, most of us can adapt to. It's just a matter of using it in a more analytical and predictive way.
Thank you.
So I just want to piggyback on what she said about technology and acknowledging that there are other areas. My experience, I've been in security, IT security for 20-some years. And a lot of times people say security, it's almost as broad as technology, and actually it is as broad as technology because you have to secure everything in technology, right? So I just wanted to say thank you for saying that. And one other aspect, it's not just management of technology. I specialize more in process. And so if you're a visual thinker or can sit and listen to people and what they need and then develop that or figure out how to put that together, even on paper, and then hand it to an engineer who can code it, it's amazing how it takes all these different minds to make things happen in tech.
That is a very good point and a valid point you bring up because it's not just from an engineering standpoint. Many will be surprised that engineers, that's just really all they do. And they, a lot of times they don't, it's not that they're incapable of taking on different roles outside of, hardcore engineering, but a lot of them take interest in just, developing a solution, whereas that isn't all that it takes to get something through the entire development cycle or from start to finish into production, So it takes many different roles in IT to make IT as a whole successful. It's not just developing a program, because now you need someone with the skill set and knowledge to know how to interpret what's needed from a business standpoint and translate that in a business way in the form of requirements, and then translate those requirements to technical specifications, right? And you need agile coaches to be able to work as a liaison between business and technical teams to deliver the end state or whatever solution it may be. And then you need from a leadership standpoint to make sure that, the team is going in the direction that is aligned with the organizational goals, that supports our business and so forth. So there's so many different, and then you need analysts and data scientists. There's so many different roles that are critical and just as equally important in technology than just an actual developer or technical lead or something to that point. So yeah, that's a very valid point. And then just technology as a whole is such, like I said, a broad spectrum, like you said, and security is its own world in technology. And it's very complex, and it requires even more rigorous certifications and yeah, so security from an IT and technical standpoint is a whole nother world, and it has its different layers and different technology and solutions and applications to support it. So that's where someone entering into technology, it's so fascinating that it's almost worth kind of just pursuing different opportunities to get an experience of what a day in a life is like in some of the various pertinent or prominent areas within technology.
Yeah, we just started offering training on, it's a course called The Back of the Napkin, which is like visual communications, and that it's a huge part of any process, diagramming and yeah, so huge skill to have in any environment.
I agree, because you have to be able to visualize, and sometimes, when you're talking to the business side, or when you're marketing to clients and members, or you're talking to higher leaders, they're not looking at it and understanding it from an application or a coding standpoint, right? They're looking at a Visio or flow chart of how this operation or this process will flow, right? And so having that visual ability to take an idea and make it come to life in a way that others can understand it just by visually seeing it is in itself a very needed skill within technology and IT. And I started with Visio, right? So before, as part of our designs, right, part of the waterfall world, we used to do designs and have design reviews, and we used Visio flowcharts to represent the application and the solution that we were building. And it would describe the order, the flow of the process. It would describe dependencies and so forth, and all other kind of pertinent information. But that really, just that one Visio chart, we would get into meetings with our business and our architects and our tech leads and our business analysts, and we would go over each project and the requirements, and the IT side would design the solution via a visual concept to display to the business and to the analysts to make sure that it is what fit their requirements and it's what they're looking for. And believe it or not, we just had that one Visio flow, a picture or a diagram to describe the entire theme and that's all that was needed, So pictures, can speak a million words.
Who becomes responsible for the success of the project? And let's say the project isn't successful. Have you had projects where you think you're going in this direction, then all of a sudden it turns out that maybe another direction is better? Maybe you're looking at one product, but find out that you're working on another project? Does that ever occur?
Yes, I've got it wrong many of times. I've got it wrong individually, and I've got it wrong collectively as a team as well, and even as a team participant and from a leadership standpoint, from a team lead standpoint. And that's expected. That's kind of par for the course. What determines success within technology, and I think just in the field in general, is for me, it's a team effort. If one fail, we all fail. If one succeed, we all succeed. But what determines success and this capacity of IT that I've experienced is that, does this solution and product deliver value to the business? Did we develop this solution in the most efficient and effective and scalable way? So there's a number of different factors that determine success. Does it run within an agreed upon service level, right, or a time frame, right, which is considered a service level agreement? Does it utilize resource or environmental resources in an efficient way, right? Is it consuming a lot of resources that are, like in the mainframe world, you use, things like MIPS, right? And every time you have this, it depends on how much parallelism and capacity has to kick in and to run, a specific program. That depends on how much money the company dishes out to get that program through the system in enough time. So developing efficient products, developing products that are value add to the business, developing products that are scalable and efficient and can run on their own, defect-free, high quality, first-time quality, that determines a number of different factors determine what success looks like. And then from a team standpoint, making sure you're working as a team. No one's being left behind. You're communicating within your team. You're not off working in a silo when you're working. You're supposed to be a part of a team. You're following all the DevOps procedures or standards, right? You're following all of your procedures to cross your T's and dot your I's. That's all a part of success. And when you look at, so there's been plenty of times, especially in IT, where you get, and there's been a couple different reasons that could cause an unsuccessful project. One, you could misinterpret the requirements, right? So by the time, it's kind of like playing telephone. By the time the business, provided their requirements and like the liaison, whether it's a technical product or owner or a business analyst, and they translate what the business provided from a requirement standpoint to technical terms, it could have been misinterpreted. And so you're developing a solution off of the wrong set of requirements. Or it could have been the business didn't understand what they needed to ask for, and they provided the wrong set of requirements, and so they got a product that did not support their value or business need. So all of those contribute to, you could have just had a developer who just got it wrong, or an architect who just got it wrong, or be a database administrator who just structured the table wrong, got the index wrong, got the keys wrong, and, caused this perfectly designed application or code to malfunction. So there's a number of different opportunities or ways that you could fail. But those are learning opportunities, especially in such a fast-paced environment. Those are really the best ways to learn. You understand, especially when, especially when it's an opportunity, or I guess a situation where it's something that is repeatable, or it's expected to be repeatable. So you have a similar pattern that you're developing, and maybe it's something that you have developed a solution for in the past, and you've leveraged, or at least you thought you leveraged, a pattern that you've used in the past for a capability that you have today. Well, you have that sort of blueprint to model after. And that is where, when I started, I leveraged a lot of open source code to develop solutions to provide similar functions or outcomes. So those were all opportunities, using that blueprint allowed me to go back and backtrack, where did I get something wrong? So there's different ways to learn from your mistake, but I see failure as an opportunity.
Hi, I know there aren't many women in IT, and I'm kind of wondering what that experience has been like for you, and if there are any challenges, especially being a woman of minority, just trying to better understand, what that's like. I'm new to the IT world, and I feel like I'm in the office with all guys all the time. Yeah.
It's a lot better today, but when I started, there were very few women in technology, and I don't think it was because of a discriminatory, and maybe there was. That's the naive part of me. I don't know if I've experienced, challenges because of my race or my gender. I think it just was a lack of interest in our gender. Because to me, it's kind of an acquired taste, right? And it's something that you would have had to develop an interest in early on with, science and math and just STEM areas, engineering areas. So I wasn't totally surprised, because part of the research I did and some of the information I got from speaking with counselors and others is that it's a male-dominated field, but that doesn't mean that you can't be just as great. And so I took that as my way. I kept that mindset with me as I entered. And to me, it set the bar high. It's like, I want to be a kick-ass girl, so I have to outcode them. I have to deliver flawless code, right? So it was, to me, more of a healthy challenge, right? And also, I wanted to set, just like you, set the way or pave the way for other women to see it's not foreign, it's not, even like building a car and mechanics, it's something that's doable for any gender, it's not gender specific. So it's been an experience. It's a lot better now. There's more diversity from a gender standpoint and technology. And I think it's going to continue to grow.
If you could be any technology, what would you be and why?
If I could be a technology, the technology I think that I would be a database, whether it's DB2, Oracle, whether it's a cloud-based environment. Just from the standpoint of, I think I would have access to what runs the world, and that's data, right? All of that data would be within me, and I would have first access, or I would be privy to that data, and I could analyze it, I could slice it, I could manipulate it and translate it any way that I want, but I would be most informed because the data resides within me. So I would be some form of a database.
I used to work in a X-ray department in a non-technical capacity, but I noticed X-ray technicians coming in and telling me, yeah, I used to be, this over here doing tech and in a camera shop and in this place and in that place. Is it basically true that technology pretty much prepares you for anything?
Well, I'm biased, so I'm going to say yes, because I've been born and bred in technology. But I think the principles and the concepts that you learn early on in technology are just normal troubleshooting principles that you can apply in any aspect of life and in any career. So I think the critical thinking aspect of it and the troubleshooting aspect of it and the problem-solving aspect of it is prudent and really important for any journey in life, any career, and it does set you up for pretty much anything. Any field you go into, you have to possess those skills, the ability to troubleshoot, the ability to, come up with the best solution for whatever the circumstances are. Delivering quality first time around, because that can make or break you. All of those things are factors into pretty much any field or any area in life that you may experience. So yeah, I think it does sets the precedence for any other area or aspect of life. That's my biased opinion.
Can I add to that? I would say it also works the other way. No matter what you do in your life, you can easily transition into technology. So if you are a secretary, for example, or administrative assistant, and you work with Excel and you put together spreadsheets, you can easily transition that into different areas of tech. Even typing papers or whatnot, it all transfers over. It's such a broad area that there's always some place to slot that in.
That is such a good view, because you are right on. It is like, it goes both ways. Those same skills that you can do, that you learn outside of technology, is what helps a lot of people in technology become successful and to learn it. You're definitely right with that. Those are standard troubleshooting skills, and I think every programmer or experienced programmer learned in Excel all of those various functions and pivot tables, and that set us up for a lot of the technology. A lot of technology was built on just some of those basic concepts. So absolutely, and they were used in different fields outside of technology. Yep. And part of what really even piqued my interest or solidified my interest in technology is my typewriting class that I took in high school. I was so fascinated on how much I learned and how fast I learned to type that I just wanted to continue to get better at it and beat my speed every time. And part of technology starts with the keyboard. So yeah.
Anybody else have questions? No? Okay.
Oh, I got one last question for you. This is almost a similar question to an earlier one, but out of all the typical roles on a technology software team, something like product team, like a user experience person, a programmer, or the project manager, that kind of thing, if you were to start fresh in tech and say, which role would be your preferred role, assuming that you had the education and could step right into it? If you could pick any role on a project team in tech, what would be your favorite?
That's a good question, and I would have to say, hands down, an architect. I love architects, and I love the vision that they have and the vision that they possess and their ability. They're like our, what do you call it, when you're, I guess you can't make a decision, or they're like our go-to people, right? When either you have a locked decision and you don't know what the best solution is, and there's many solutions on the table, or, you know, you're not for sure if you're in compliance or what certain standards are or what technology standards you have to confide within. Architects are like the solutions to all problems technology, right? From the software side to the technology hardware side to the business side. They are the brains behind building a robust product, a robust environment. They're the brains behind research and development, and, you know, bringing in new technology into your space, into your business. And then just the technical composition that goes with being an architect is just so attractive to me. You know, to be able to design systems with a pencil and to design a blueprint, and then to have a company model after that blueprint, and to be responsible for such a huge business, a function of the company, the organization in general. You know, architects are those folks. So they kind of set the precedents for the teams, and they kind of guide you. And I've just always been I've always highly respected them. Their jobs aren't easy. And when things don't go right, they are like, you know, so it's like a double-edged sword, but architects.
Well, thank you, Qiana, so much for giving us your time tonight and sharing your knowledge with us. I want to thank everybody for coming too. Thank you for coming out to our station. And we're going to be having these regularly on Wednesday nights. Next Saturday, I believe it's the 23rd, we're going to have an event here. It's another Women in Tech event that's resumes and headshots. So if anybody's interested in getting an updated headshot or help with their resume, or there's going to be some recruiters here to bounce ideas off of. So we'll do that on the afternoon of the 23rd. So I think it's at 2 o'clock. So, but thank you again for coming, and if you want last words.
No, I was just going to say thank you for having me. This has been such a fun, wonderful opportunity, and yeah, I'm looking forward to coming back and hearing some other stories of the technology.
Yeah. Thank you so much.